In all my years of being in the manosphere and teaching men about female nature, there's something cardinally important I've discovered about women that I think every man deserves to know. Listen, the world we live in is ultimately dictated by nature. For all of human history, from the caveman days, men and women have had different roles. Women have controlled access to sex, while men have been the bearers of what the woman wants: commitment. And that usually meant access to resources in the most vulnerable time she will spend in her life, having and rearing children. So when, in the modern world, women are foregoing this traditional role in favor of a more free-for-all sexual marketplace, it is natural that men will come back with a response to it. And that response is the MGTOW movement. It's been gaining ground over the past few months, especially after the lockdown brought the manosphere more virtually connected than ever before. And this is exactly the very thing that women despise. The thought of a man withholding his commitment and resources and using her simply for momentary pleasure is repulsive to women on a visceral level. It's hard for a man to understand because it has its roots in biology and evolutionary psychology. It's one of those unique female experiences that man can find it hard to imagine. Haven't you noticed? When just weeks into a relationship, she starts hinting at commitment if she likes you. When are you going to put a ring on it? Or, when are you going to say I love you? The woman in this predicament needs to hear it from you. She wants to know you'll pass up every other woman that comes across you for her. This is because mate, guarding, and resource protection was vital in our turbulent and violent past. Men are the ones who provided security and provisioning to the women, so she could provide the same to the baby. But now, as more and more men are starting to go MGTOW and completely check out of LTRS, they are depriving women of something they crave desperately, and that is long-term commitments from a high-value man. Here's the deal. In the modern world with triggers at every turn, it takes an exceptionally well-disciplined man to decide that he's not going to let women derail him from his life's purpose, and such a disciplined man will be successful in every reel. This is why most men that are going MGTOW hurt women even more, because more often than not, they are the highest quality men to go around. In the current economy we live in, women are finding out the brunt of the fallout and being faced with the harsh realities of life that men have always faced. Women throughout history have had the leverage over a relationship because they are the gatekeepers to sex, but now male commitment is become a more valuable commodity because it is harder to find. Male resources are now only accessible in one of two ways: either through marriage or being the sugar baby to a rich individual with no commitment. Or of course, the other option is the security of a beta male, but that no woman wants. So what does she do in this predicament? Let's dive a bit deeper to understand this. You see, marriage for long has been the sole guarantor of a man being committed to a woman for life, but as marriage falls apart, men are realizing it was nothing but a slave contract that mortgaged their net worth for the sake of a woman that didn't even fulfill her roles in the relationship. He was expected to be traditional, she wasn't. So eventually and inevitably, men stopped playing the game altogether. But in doing so, women were now left in the cold. They could use their youth and looks for a while to ride a wave of exciting party days, but she quickly realized that the older she got, the more she needs a man's protection and provision. And this is when it hit her, that there was no man at the end of the ride. Now the femme-centric and gynocentric social order we live in is trying tooth and nail to try and delegitimize the entire movement of men. They are frantically groping in the dark to somehow destroy the red pill movement that's forcing men to wake up to the fact that marriage is a null and void concept in the modern world. They cannot afford to be blue-pilled betas anymore because now their entire life, reputation, and wealth is at stake. I want to let you know of one particular tactic that many people in the mainstream media use to deride and embarrass men that identify with the movement. They are called incels and misogynists, and the tactic they love to use the most is that of shame. They will try to guilt you into agreeing with them instead of arguing the point, and when that happens, you've already won the debate. I see this all the time. Instead of a rational discussion, debates about men's issues turn into shouting matches, and more often than not, it is interrupted by someone lamenting all the bad things that happen to women. It is sad, precedent being set. but it's something we have to live with. Women are losing their minds at the prospect of men checking out of dating them, but they could do well to contemplate the series of events that led to this. For too long, men, their labor, and their resources have been utilized by women in the name of committed marriage unfairly. It is certainly an interesting fact about the way modern marriage functions. It safeguards the female sexual strategy, which is commitment and resources, yet it does not factor in male strategy, which is polygamy, quantity, and a degree of authority. Kids are another angle to this dilemma that's not very often talked about. According to a recent statistic, over 80% of the single parents in America are single mothers. Obviously, this puts tremendous strain on them, having to provide for and raise children all by themselves while trying to make ends meet. Life isn't easy for them without men, and high-quality men just checking out of relationships will leave a mass of lower-value men who are desperate enough to get into committed relationships but not attractive enough to light the same fire inside of him. Listen, gentlemen, if there was no such thing as sex, I doubt any man would ever snake himself enough to get married to a woman. But the problem for a lot of guys out there, they have no other way to get it except for giving themselves away to legal LTR. Being able to sleep around with beautiful women without committing to them is a luxury only afforded by top echelons of men. Women have had the leverage for the longest time throughout history, but for the first time now, high-value men are becoming a rare commodity to come across. And the women are realizing they have no choice but to try and lock down a commitment from these men before they awaken to the red pill. This desperation is visible for all to see in the mainstream media and the popular narrative being peddled by Hollywood. Men are being programmed to submit to women. They are being told that monogamy is the only game in town for them if they, as lower value guys, want access to intimacy. And yet, stuck between two ends, they cannot access intimacy without signing up to the most destructive and harmful piece of paper, the marriage contract. Most men are left bereft and with no idea of what to do. They are looking online for answers and trying to figure out this complex puzzle on their own. I saw to those men. The online manosphere space is the most important resource in your quest to wake to the facts before it's too late. You must help other men in your circle by leading them down this rabbit hole, and they will eventually find the answers themselves. For now, you need to like the video, subscribe to the channel so the YouTube algorithm knows exactly what kind of high-value content you want to see. Share this video far and wide so more men can join in on our fight. And in this fight, this channel that I've created will be your greatest well of knowledge and information. Until next time.